is the beginning of the beginning. They said it would be the easiest trade deal in history. They said we hold all the cards. But as we are already seeing, but a week away from the quote glorious Independence Day, it's not the case. Not only do we hold no cards, our our closest friends and trading partners, people who used to ally with, are now gone. They're now our closest trading rivals. This ain't gonna happen. The idea that Brexit is unshackling the nation from apparently the quote tyranny of the EU, a tyranny that no one else wants to get rid of, by the way, despite the Brexiteers saying. Once again, Nigel Farage repeating the once future phrase that all the Brexiteers like to say: the EU won't be here in 5 years. The EU won't be here in 5 years. Go back in time and just see how many times Nigel Farage has said that in the past. Because once again, Nigel Farage has said the EU won't be here in 5 years, and what? The EU will be here in 5 years because it is a good idea. It brings nations together in cooperation, and it has proven to be a good and constructive thing for Europe and those European nations. It was good for us as well, and we are going to have to find out the hard way just how good it was for us. So, this comes from the politics.co.uk, but this was from last week, and I think it's still worth reading because, yeah, you're going to see this over and over again as we continue on. So, lies, blame, and rewriting history. Welcome to day one of the Brexit talks. They didn't even allow one working day before the lie machines sprang into operation. On Sunday morning, less than 48 hours after the UK had left the EU, the Downing Street fabrication operation came back online. It started with a briefing to the Telegraph, one of Boris Johnson's several friendly print outlets. And it transcribed his entire message line by line for its readers. It said, "Johnson's fury as EU reneges on deal," the headline said. Inside, a source had informed the paper that the Prime Minister was privately infuriated with EU attempts to frustrate a deal. What were they privately frustrated about, though? It seems that it is the level playing field provisions. These are a set of standards in which the EU expects the UK to align on, covering issues like environment, state aid, and labour. It is their insurance policy to make sure the UK does not undercut them. And what have we been warning about if Brexit happened? They will make this this country, low regulation, low tax. That means next to no services. A pretty much cutting of the NHS to bare bones. I guarantee you they will start to slowly push things to get the NHS to fail, and then they can go, oh, see, privatisation of the NHS doesn't work. Guess we'll have to privatise it now. And what's scary is that they can do that with their majority. That's if their majority votes for them. At the moment, we are seeing potential cracks in some of the Tory voters, especially the new Tory MPs. But we'll have to see how that develops. But I've already said the summer is where you are going to see those cracks turn into absolute chasms. So Dominic Raab reiterated this account on Sky News in the morning. Asked if Michel Barnier was wrong to say that there would be checks needed at the border if the UK does not align, he replied it is in direct conflict, not just with the withdrawal agreement, but the undertakings in the political declaration. So, of course, we expect those assurances to be kept to. That's why we've done the deal. It is a package. Johnson himself will make this argument in his first major post-Brexit speech today, laying out his stall for the talks to come. There is no need for a free trade agreement to involve accepting EU rules on a competition policy, subsidies, social protection, and the environment, or anything similar, or any more than the EU should be obliged to accept UK rules. These are all lies. You do not need to research the heavily to establish the lies. They are lies by virtue of what is freely available in the public domain, and the text the UK itself has signed up to. The EU demand for level playing field provisions is not new. EU officials first started talking about them as late as 2016. In March of 2019, the Europeans said they were ready to pursue a free trade agreement insofar as they are sufficient guarantees of a level playing field. Rab said that the EU was, quote, in direct conflict with a political declaration by both sides, and that the UK expected those assurances to be kept. So how does he explain Section 77 of the political declaration? It states, the parties should uphold the common high standards applicable in the Union and the United Kingdom at the end of the transition period and in the states and areas of state aid, competition, social and employment standards, environment, climate change and relevant tax matters. The parties should in particular maintain a robust and comprehensive framework for competition and state aid. So the government is lying. That is the word for it. No point beating around the bush about the EU's position. It is also lying about the position it held, as a fact, by virtue of the agreements it signed until yesterday morning. The level playing field provisions are not unreasonable. Johnson will stress today that the Canada deal he wants Britain to emulate does not require such extensive trade alignments, but there is no comparison between Canada and the UK. Firstly, Canada is further away. This is a basic point, but one which is seemingly beyond the grasp of the government and most people, because we've discussed this before about trade gravity. Secondly, and more importantly, the UK and Europe are already deeply and intensively enmeshed with each other, with goods and services travelling freely millions of times a week. We are not comparing two disparate units. We are extracting the ingredients in a solution. Britain is a big economy right on the EU's doorstep. If it wanted to, it could undermine the EU's environment policies and its free trade policies. Britain knew this. It was made clear, and now it is pretending to be shocked. Downing Street is also trying to lie about the future of Johnson's threat. If the EU does not back down, then it's a no deal. But he has now stated that the rebranding operation for this, it is not going to be called a no deal anymore. It is going to be called the Australia model. The choice is emphatically not deal or no deal, Johnson will say later. The question is whether we can agree trading relationships with the EU comparable to Canada's or more like Australia's. Australia has no trade deal with the EU. Like countless other countries, it has some international agreements, but this is of no consequence. It's hard to find two trading entities with none whatsoever. And anyway, Australia deeply wants a deal with the EU, which, given it is on the other side of the world, should give some indication of how important such a thing might be for an economy which is right on its doorstep. Rebranding the no deal as the Australia model is the new WTO model, a way of pretending that no deal is not as bad as it is, but it is also something else. It is a cultural gamble. No deal is being painted in the Anglosphere colours. Once again, Empire 2.0 raising its head. Smartened up with some English-speaking Commonwealth tones. It is the thin edge of the culture war wedge, and it is the start of the process which will portray alignment with the EU as the rank cosmopolitan option and no deal as the common sense shared heritage option. What is the point of all this? Is the UK chest beating? If so, how much of it will businesses accept before it is assumed it is true and act accordingly? How much before the government makes it impossible to back down regardless? Or is it true that we are already heading for no deal? The answer is we don't know, and it is very likely that the British government doesn't know either. What we do know is that this is how they will behave. They will lie, they will blame their neighbouring partner for things they themselves are doing, and they will willfully try to deceive the public about the consequences. New era, same old lies.